Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. Most abduction stories start with a beam of light, a cold metal table, and a feeling of absolute terror. We imagine aliens as cold, calculating scientists who view humans as lab rats. We expect probes, scans, and existential dread. But the Zorgon research fleet made a catastrophic tactical error. They didn't abduct a soldier. They didn't abduct a scientist. They abducted Mrs. Romano. Mrs. Romano is 78 years old. She has survived 3 recessions, 2 world wars, and raised 5 children in a tiny apartment in Brooklyn. She does not fear the unknown. She fears dirt, bad manners, and being too thin. To a Zorgon, a human is a biological specimen. To Mrs. Romano, a Zorgon is just a very tall, very pale grandchild who clearly isn't eating enough. This is the story of how the most advanced warship in the galaxy was conquered not by lasers, but by the cookie protocol. If you have ever been forced to eat a second plate of pasta even when you were full, smash that like button. You know the power of a grandma. And if you want to see a robotic AI learn the meaning of love through a chocolate chip cookie, subscribe and ring the bell. Manja. The abduction occurred at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. Mrs. Romano was in her kitchen, preparing the dough for her famous Sunday cookies, when the blue tractor beam pulled her through the roof. When she materialized on the USS Malphas, the Zorgon scientists were prepared for screaming. They were prepared for fainting. Instead, Mrs. Romano stood up, adjusted her apron, and looked around the sterile lab with an expression of deep disapproval. "Mother of Mary," she whispered, rubbing a finger against the wall. "Dust. You boys live in a palace of stars and you can't find a rag? Look at these floors. You could grow mushrooms in the corners." The lead scientist, a floating brain in a jar named Unit 7, hovered forward. "Human. Silence. We shall now begin the cellular extraction." "Extraction?" Mrs. Romano cut him off, waving her wooden spoon. "Look at you, Mr. Brain in a bucket. You look pale. When was the last time you had a vegetable? And you," she pointed at a massive armored guard. "Stand up straight. You're slouching. You'll have back problems by the time you're 50. The aliens were frozen. Their universal translators were working perfectly, but their cultural processors were crashing. We are the conquerors of the Andromeda sector," Unit 7 stammered. "I don't care if you're the king of Italy," Mrs. Romano snapped. "This room is cold, it's dirty, and I smell ozone. Ozone is not a dinner smell. Now where is your kitchen?" Before they could stop her, she marched toward the ship's matter synthesizer. She looked at the interface. Too many buttons. She reached into her apron pocket, which apparently contained a pocket dimension of supplies, and pulled out a jar of yeast and a rolling pin. She spent the next 4 hours recalibrating the ship's high-tech synthesizer. She bypassed the security firewalls because the interface reminded her of her old microwave. The ship's AI tried to stop her. "Alert! Unauthorized use of molecular printer." "Shush," Mrs. Romano whispered to the computer. "I'm making biscotti. You want some or not?" The AI paused. Its sensors detected a chemical compound it had never encountered: sugar, butter, and affection. By 8 a.m., the USS Malphas no longer smelled like ozone. It smelled like a bakery. The guards, who were genetically engineered for aggression, were now sitting in a circle on the floor. Mrs. Romano had forced them to wash their hands, all 4 of them, and was handing out warm cookies. Eat," she commanded. "You're all skin and exoskeleton. You need meat on those bones." When the Supreme Warlord, a terrifying 6-eyed beast named Crawl, stormed onto the bridge to find out why his invasion was behind schedule, he found his elite soldiers wearing hand-knitted, multicolored sweaters that Mrs. Romano had produced from some spare wire she found in the engine room. "What is the meaning of this?" Crawl roared. Mrs. Romano didn't blink. She walked up to the 10-foot warlord, reached up and pinched his scaly cheek. "Oh, look at those eyes," she cooed. "All red. Are you getting enough sleep, Crawly? I bet you're staying up late planning those silly wars. Here." She shoved a warm, gooey chocolate chip cookie into his primary mandible. Crawl prepared to bite her hand off. But then the chocolate hit his tongue. His 6 eyes dilated. His armored tail began to wag involuntarily. This substance," Crawl whispered, his voice trembling. "It feels like the warmth of 1,000 suns but in my mouth. What is this sorcery?" "It's a cookie, you big baby," Mrs. Romano said. "Now sit down. I'm making lasagna for lunch and you're going to help me grate the cheese." The invasion of Earth was cancelled. The Zorgon fleet stayed in orbit for 3 weeks. They didn't fire a single shot. Instead, they sent down shuttles to Earth, not to kidnap leaders but to buy flour, eggs, and that nice olive oil from the deli. Mrs. Romano eventually went home. They beamed her back into her kitchen, repaired her roof, and left a thank you note written in glowing plasma. But the galaxy was changed. The cookie protocol is now a standard diplomatic procedure. Whenever a new, aggressive species is discovered, the Federation doesn't send a fleet. They send a grandma. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. Love is the universal language, but sugar is a very close second. If your grandma is a secret superhero, hit that like button. Comment below. What is the one dish your grandma makes that could stop a space war? Subscribe. And remember to call your grandma. Cookies are ready.